The first Subaru I ever drove was a Forester XT in 2007. I remember being very impressed with how fast it was on the highway and how well it went around the corners, even on the dirt. But that was 15 years ago. Will this 2022 Subaru Forester impress me too? Without a doubt, the Forester is the core product of Subaru in the Philippine market. When you look at their sales, the 40 to 45% lion's share does not belong to Impreza or even the XV. You're looking right at it. What we have here is the latest version of the Subaru Forester 5th generation model. This is not an all-new generation. This is what they call a BMC, or a big minor change, an update to that model. It sounds strange to say BMC, it's very, very Japanese English, but hey, Subaru is Japanese. So this is a Koki, or a late model. So what's changed? Well, clearly the front is different. Actually, I remember driving the first version of this generation and thinking to myself, wow, it seemed more like a facelift, but not anymore. The changes from the 4th to the 5th generation model were very mild in terms of designs. Subaru is not really known for being groundbreaking or avant-garde with their designs anyway, but this one is definitely more like it. I mean, check out the new front, the black grille, the new headlights, the new trim, the new bumper. Yeah, this is definitely more fresh, far more modern. If the Forester looks very upright, well, that's because it is. While many car makers like to go wider rather than taller for their compact crossovers, Subaru goes a different way. I mean, even with the color, bronze, no one really offers this in the segment. There are a bunch of renegades over there at Subaru, and we like them that way. Now, the wheels, those really look good, as does the cladding. It is a bit busy with the black, the satin silver, the chrome, and also the bronze, but busy is going to be a continuing theme with the interior. I'll show you later. But what I really want to point out here is the glass area. If you wanted to cover that in a premium window film, it's going to be a bit on the pricey side. Also, the panoramic glass roof. If memory serves me correctly, Subaru is one of the first, if not the first, to offer a panoramic glass roof in the compact crossover segment. Correct me if I'm wrong. From that angle, you can't really notice many changes with the back apart from the bumper. It does still have the power tailgate, and as you can see, most of the taillights go up with the tailgate, and that's because the tailgate is really wide. But don't worry if you have to load or unload stuff from the side of the road, because you still have part of the tailgates and the reflectors. I would argue that the Subaru Forester has one of the best and most versatile cargo areas in the class. First, tonneau cover, retractable. The measurements inside is 35 inches deep, 43 inches wide between the wheel wells, and 47 inches wide at the widest point right here. If you want more cargo space, pull that, pull this, and it goes up to 70 inches right away. But wait, there's more. There's a tray underneath for a variety of tools and your space saver spare tire. There are a variety of hooks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 2 more on the ceiling, which is pretty cool. Oh, and one more right here, which is great. So yeah, I really like the cargo area of the Subaru Forester. Let's take it out for a drive. Sadly, Subaru eliminated all the XT models when they came out with the 5th generation Forester. Now, they never said why, but we expect that it was because of the CAFE regs, or the corporate average fuel economy. That was probably what did it in. So all we have left are the non-turbo versions like this one. Even though it's not an XT, I find that this vehicle accelerates pretty well. Subaru says it can do 0 to 100 in 10.3 seconds, and I have no reason to doubt that because when we tested on our Draggy, I was getting around 10.4, 10.5. So depending on weather conditions. The big factor here, I think, is because Subaru worked on the response of the engine. That means when you tap the throttle even just a little bit, the vehicle just goes right away. Part of it is also the fact that this is an under-square engine, meaning it's kind of a long stroke, so the stroke is longer than the bore is wide. So what you get there is a little bit more torque. And then there's the CVT. Now, granted, I'm not really a huge fan of CVTs because they can't be outstanding. They're not really fantastic. But what they can be is really good. And the execution of what Subaru has in the Forester, and actually many of their models, the linear electronic system, is actually quite good. And even in the WRX, I really do like the CVT in that one. Fuel economy is actually really good for this engine because in my time with it in the city, I was averaging around 8.5 kilometers per liter. But I was being very mindful of my throttle pressure because, well, mahal ng gas eh. Even on the highway, that figure improves up to 13.2, but I was doing a bit more overtaking, having a bit more fun. But still, not bad considering the size of the vehicle and the engine. What had me disappointed with the Subarus in the past, particularly the Forester, was the interior quality. It was like Subaru spent all their R&D budget into the engine, the drivetrain, the suspension, but left very little for things like interior plastics, that kind of thing. I mean, in the 3rd gen Forester, the first one I drove, I pushed here and it was squeaky because it was not really great quality plastic. The leather back then wasn't great, but now they've really been stepping it up to produce everyday cars that we can enjoy. So you look around, the plastics, the materials, the soft touch materials, they all feel really high grade. They look very well put together. So that's always a good thing because that's the kind of thing we appreciate on an everyday drive. So yes, interior quality is better, but I think the next focus for Subaru should be when it comes to the user interface, the user experience, and the interior design of the whole thing. Because it feels like when you have a new phone and then you download all these apps, but you don't really organize them by type, like you have YouTube and VLC and Spotify together, your banking apps together, so on and so forth. It kind of feels like the same thing. It feels a bit cluttered in here. There's a lot going on. I mean, for one, you have 3 screens, 1, 2, and 3. And by the way, it has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. And then you have that display up here for your all-wheel drive system and fuel economy, so on and so forth. You've also got quite a few buttons all around the vehicle. So it can feel a bit cluttered. Maybe Subaru can take a page from how phone companies are designing their phones now to be more streamlined for the next generation Forester. But what I really like is how Subaru didn't hold back with the features of the vehicle. Of course, you have the sunroof. I mean, Subaru was one of the first to offer it in the segment. And then you have the abundance of rear legroom there. That's something you don't really find in a lot of its competitors in the class. There is a perception that vehicle safety is all about crumple zones, stability control, traction control, ABS, and having as many airbags as possible in a vehicle. And to an extent, that is true. Those are a car's safety features. We can even talk about eyesight. It's Subaru's dual camera stereoscopic system. Basically, it's 2 cameras up there. It senses things, so it gives you things like lane departure warning, lane departure assist, yes, even with the steering. It gives you adaptive cruise control with the low speed follow, all that kind of stuff. Even autonomous emergency, and even autonomous emergency braking. Woo, finally got through that one. Now there are probably more features that I'm forgetting in that list, but the thing here is that when those features kick in, like when stability control kicks in, or when ABS activates, or when the airbags deploy, that's really bad, or when eyesight takes over, well, it's really correcting a problem to begin with. Now, if we can get to the problem before it even starts, well, that's going to be the real advantage here. At its core, vehicle safety starts by giving the driver maximum control possible. All the control over the vehicle he can possibly have to avoid an incident, avoid an obstacle on the road, dodge something, stay stable on the road. That is what vehicle safety is all about. And that can't really be fixed by electronics. You have to engineer it from the ground up to be that way. And that's what you can expect from the way Subaru does their all-wheel drive system. The symmetry of it all, it makes it balanced. The low to the ground CG of this vehicle, because everything is down low, including the Boxer engine, it stays flat to the ground. That is an advantage. That's why when you drive a Subaru, it doesn't pitch or yaw or roll like any other crossover in its class. It feels like it kind of hits a bump and then it just stabilizes again. That's something you don't really feel with even other all-wheel drive models. When you go over a bump, then it's kind of rolling. This one, it just rolls and then stable again. That's the kind of thing you can't really put a price on with a vehicle like this. What Subaru found is that those same qualities that make for a great performance car, a great rally car, also make it a great and safe car on the road, a very composed car on the road. I mean, you turn a corner at a very reasonable speed or even a little bit over it, and it just feels measured. It just feels confident. It just feels planted, like it's hugging the road. Part of it is because of the all-wheel drive system with the torque vectoring. The other is because of the low CG. It's a combination of all those factors that they've been engineering from the start to compete in the World Rally Championships. And that's what you get in the Forester. Even when you're driving on the highway, say at around 100 or sometimes even a little bit over it, and then you suddenly arrive at a sudden downpour, well, it just feels more assured to be in a Subaru, particularly the Forester or even the WRX. Of course, you still have to slow down, of course. What really surprised me is the price of the new Forester. Subaru resisted the urge to bump up the SRP just because they have a new model. As such, this 2.0i-S with the Eyesight system retails for the same 2.068 million as the previous model. Subaru actually has one more version coming, which is the 2.0i-L, but they'll launch that at a later date. So, do I like this? Yep, I do like the Subaru Forester. Yes, it's an upgrade. Yes, it's a facelift and an update. But that also means it's the best version of this generation Forester that you can get. But, like many of you, yeah, I still want a Subaru Forester XT.